In 1695, Scotland made the most catastrophic financial decision in its history. A decision so disastrous that it didn't just bankrupt individuals or companies. It bankrupted an entire nation. A decision so ruinous that Scotland would cease to exist as an independent country within 12 years. This is the story of the Darien Scheme, the colonial fantasy that consumed half of Scotland's wealth, killed thousands of its people, and ended 3 centuries of independence. This is how one bad investment destroyed a kingdom. The man with the plan. The year is 1695. Scotland is broke, bitter, and watching England get rich, while England is building a global empire. Trading posts in India, colonies in America, ships loaded with spices, silk, and silver. Scotland has nothing. No colonies, no trade monopolies, no slice of the wealth flooding into Europe from the New World. Enter William Paterson, a Scottish financier who'd already helped found the Bank of England. Paterson has a vision, and it's intoxicating. Establish a Scottish colony on the Darien Peninsula in Central America, modern-day Panama, and control the gateway between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Think about the geography. Every ship traveling between Europe and Asia has to sail all the way around South America, a journey of months through some of the most dangerous waters on Earth. But what if there was a shortcut? What if Scotland controlled a land bridge where goods could be offloaded, carried across the isthmus, and reshipped? Scotland would become the trading hub of the world, the door of the seas and key of the universe, as Paterson called it. The fever takes hold. The pitch is irresistible. Pamphlets flood Edinburgh, promising wealth beyond imagination. Investment subscriptions open in 1696, and something extraordinary happens. Scotland goes all in. Nobles empty their estates, merchants liquidate their businesses, common people scrape together their life savings. Even the poor contribute what little they have. In a country of roughly 1 million people, approximately $400,000 is raised, somewhere between 25% and 50% of all the liquid capital in Scotland. To put that in perspective, imagine if the United States today invested $10 to $20 trillion, nearly half the country's GDP, into a single venture. That's the scale of Scotland's bet. 5 ships are outfitted, 1,200 colonists volunteer. The mood is euphoric. Scotland isn't just joining the colonial game, it's about to win it. On July 17th, 1698, the fleet departs from Leith. Crowds cheer, flags wave, dreams soar. Nobody knows they're watching a funeral procession. After 3 months at sea, the Scottish fleet arrives. At Darien in November 1698, the colonists name their settlement New Edinburgh and immediately begin building Fort St. Andrew. And almost immediately, everything goes wrong. First problem, the location. Darien is a malarial swamp, dense jungle, brutal humidity, diseases the Scots have never encountered. Within weeks, people start dying. Malaria, dysentery, yellow fever. The death rate is staggering. Second problem, the supplies. Remember, these are Scotsmen planning a tropical colony. What did they bring? Wool, heavy wigs, clay pipes, Bibles, thousands of clay pipes. Their intended trade goods, combs, wigs, woolen cloth, are completely worthless in the tropical heat. Nobody wants to buy Scottish wool in Central America. Third problem, the neighbours. The Spanish consider Darien their territory, and they're not happy about Scottish trespassers. Spain begins mobilising military forces. But the fourth problem, this is the killer, comes from Scotland's supposed ally, England. King William III sits on both the English and Scottish thrones, but he's terrified of antagonising Spain, with whom England has delicate diplomatic relations. So William issues a devastating order. English colonies in the Caribbean and North America are forbidden. From trading with the Scottish, settlement, no food, no supplies, no reinforcements. The Scots are on their own, blockaded by their own king. Imagine the scene in New Edinburgh. Settlers dying by the dozen, supplies running out, trade goods rotting in the humidity, Spanish soldiers massing in the jungle, and the English colonies slamming their doors shut. By June 1699, just 7 months after arrival, the survivors make a desperate decision, abandon the colony. Of the 200 who sailed, fewer than 300 stumble back to Scotland. The rest are dead, buried in unmarked graves in the jungle. Here's where the tragedy becomes almost Shakespearean. Before news of the disaster reaches Scotland, a second expedition has already departed. 4 more ships, 300 more colonists, launched in September 1699. They arrive in November to find ruins, graves, skeletons, Fort St. Andrew, crumbling in the jungle, but they've come too far to turn back. They rebuild. They try again, and the nightmare repeats. disease, starvation, isolation. Then in February 1700, the Spanish attack. 11 Spanish ships and 1,600 soldiers besiege the colony. The Scots, starving and sick, hold out for a month before surrendering in April 1700. It's over. The dream is dead. New Edinburgh is abandoned forever. When the survivors limp home, Scotland confronts the magnitude of the catastrophe. The numbers are almost incomprehensible. Total investment, 400,000 gone, completely gone. Total colonists sent, approximately 2,500. Total deaths, approximately 2,000. Return on investment, 0. But the human toll is just the beginning. The financial devastation ripples through every corner of Scottish society. Banks collapse, trading companies fold. Noble families who invested their estates are ruined overnight. Merchants lose everything. Working-class families who scrape together life savings are destitute. Scotland doesn't just lose money, it loses its economic engine. There's no capital left to invest in anything. Manufacturing stalls, trade withers, unemployment skyrockets, and the rage, oh the rage, is directed squarely at England. William III's betrayal, the English colonial blockade, the sense that England deliberately sabotaged Scotland's one chance at prosperity. Anti-English sentiment reaches a fever pitch. Scotland faces a brutal reality. It's bankrupt and it can't recover alone. The nation is functionally insolvent, unable to pay its debts, unable to fund its government. England sees an opportunity. For years, England has wanted political union with Scotland. One crown, one parliament, one nation. Scotland has always refused, fiercely protective of its independence. But now Scotland is desperate. Negotiations begin in 1706. The English offer is straightforward. Merge with England, Scotland gets access to English markets and colonies. Scottish nobles get their Darien losses compensated. Scotland gets financial stability. The price? Scottish independence. The debate in the Scottish Parliament is agonising. Riots erupt in Edinburgh. Crowds burn effigies. The public is furious. But the nobles, many of whom are personally bankrupt from Darien, see no alternative. On January 16, 1707, the Scottish Parliament votes to dissolve itself. The Acts of Union pass. Scotland and England become Great Britain. One member of Parliament reportedly said, "We are bought and sold for English gold." Scotland, an independent kingdom since 843 AD, ceases to exist. The Darien Scheme didn't just bankrupt Scotland, it erased it from the map. Here's the cruelest twist. William Paterson was right. 200 years later, the exact shortcut he envisioned, a route across the Panamanian isthmus, becomes one of the most valuable pieces of real estate on Earth. The Panama Canal, completed in 1914, is precisely what the Darien Scheme tried to create. Scotland had the right idea. They just had catastrophic execution. What went wrong? Let's count the failures. 1. Due diligence. Nobody scouted the location properly. Nobody understood the climate, the diseases, or the Spanish military presence. 2. Planning. Woolen wigs for a tropical colony. Seriously? 3. Diversification. Investing 25-50% of national wealth in one venture violated every principle of risk management. 4. Geopolitics. They underestimated Spanish hostility and never secured English support. 5. Information. The second expedition, launched before learning the first, had failed. Communication lag doomed them. But perhaps the deepest failure was psychological. National hubris. Scotland was so desperate to compete with England, so intoxicated by dreams of empire, that rational analysis evaporated. It was groupthink on a national scale. The Darien Scheme isn't just history, it's a warning. We see echoes in the 2008 financial crisis, when countries over-leveraged on housing bubbles, in crypto collapses, where people invest life savings in speculative assets, in any moment when collective euphoria overrides individual caution. The lesson is timeless. When everyone around you is caught up in a frenzy, when an investment seems too good to be true, when an entire nation is betting everything on one outcome, that's precisely when you should be most skeptical. The Darien Scheme stands as one of history's most spectacular failures, a national fever dream that became a national nightmare. It destroyed Scotland's economy, killed thousands, and ended 3 centuries of independence. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of groupthink, the perils of underdiversification, and the catastrophic consequences when emotions override analysis. But perhaps most importantly, it's a reminder that nations, like people, can make colossally stupid decisions when greed, pride, and desperation collide. Scotland bet everything on a dream, and lost not just the bet, but the country itself. Today, if you visit Panama, There's almost nothing left of New Edinburgh, just jungle, reclaiming the graves of thousands who died chasing Scotland's colonial fantasy. A forgotten ruin of a forgotten scheme that changed history. The Darien Scheme, how one investment killed a kingdom. And if you ever find yourself thinking about investing your life savings in something everyone says is a sure thing, remember Scotland, remember Darien, and remember that sometimes the entire crowd can be catastrophically wrong.